This
Rocket Child.
is Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Rocket Child. It's Rocket Child.
Rocket Child. Yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another speed drawing video. So I'm doing another illustration from my short story called The Giant's Heart, and in the story there is a dingo. So on the right hand side I've googled an image of a dingo, and then I did the first undersketch on the canvas on the left hand side in a very soft kind of sketchy way. Then I'm using a very dark red color as the outline color, and I'm using a brush to sketch to, I guess, do the proper line art now. I'm not really an expert at drawing dogs from memory or realistic dogs. I could do dumb cartoon funny ones, so that's how come I needed to have the reference drawing on one side to help me. Because I guess dogs and wolves and fur-like creatures have their whole body is covered in fur, using just a normal straight line I don't think would do justice. So here I'm using very small brush strokes, almost like cross hatching, to draw the shape of the animal and giving the texture of fur. If you look at the drawing on the right, you could see from where the light and the shadow hits different variations in the muscle from a darker kind of fur line. So I'm just copying that in. Next, I'm working on the eyes. I want the eyes to be very intense. This was a bit of a difficult challenge in the very beginning, because I chose to use a red for the outline as opposed to a black. So I wasn't quite sure how to get that initial intensity. We'll get back to that soon. So here I am using a fat brush using the multiply overlay, and I'm just copying what the shadows look like from the photo. So that's not the final shadows, but I wanted to see what it would look like. For those who have seen my previous videos, I like to do color sketches sometimes to help me think and plan through the drawing. Next, I've created a new layer. Using the eyedropper tool from the photo, I've put down a solid orange color, and then I'm going over with a very soft brushed light yellow color, and am lightly putting down the yellow-white color around the muzzle and around the ears. Next, I'm using a very soft brush again, and I'm jotting down dark areas in the fur. So it's not the final shadow, but just enough to define the shape of the face, the darkness of the ear holes. And then the grayish color around the muzzle as well. Then going with a lighter yellow color, and I'm going over the highlights. Again, I'm using very short brush strokes to sketch in the light hair bristles. As you can see in the zoomed in area, it's sort of like cross hatching. the way the fur texture. So as I said before, I had a bit of trouble figuring out how to get the eyes. I wanted them to be very strong and very intense. Here you can see on the right hand side it's looking a bit too villainous, and I didn't really want kind of evil looking eyes. I wanted wild kind of animal eyes, but of a different type of intensity. So here I am just using variations of dark reddish browns and bright yellow to get that contrast, and then going with a darker red, darker blue to get the black shape around the outside. Here I'm going with a very light yellow, almost whitish, and adding the highlights in the eyes, and it looks much better now. Still has the very intense look, but not as malicious as before. Now I'm working on the nose. So in the photo the nose is real black, but because I've decided to use this dark red color, using black on the nose would be too intense. So instead I'm using variations of the very dark red to get that deep dark color for the nose. So I imagine that the dingo is in the Australian bush, and that it is sunset time. So first I am putting layers of green. I'm not putting too much detail into it since the dingo is the focus of this illustration. After layering in the main flats of the green background, I'm using a light green to speckle in, I guess, leaves, so you have that contrast. And because the dingo is this very red-orange color and the background is very green, it looked a bit too different. So I went over with a reddish, soft reddish brush so that the background would blend in better. Here we're working on the shadows, putting in the very fine, intense lines, which would be shadows under the neck and side of the ears, putting those in first. So this green color, it's the same background color, however, I've made it green so that I'm able to see it even better than before. It helps me to mask out the areas I want. So I'm putting a second shadow layer here, I imagine that the light is coming from the back, which means that the edges would be lit with a highlight while the main surface area would be dark and covered in shadows. However, instead of coloring everything dark with shadows, I'm leaving some areas exposed, like the tips of the fur, which are glowing from the bouncing surrounding lights. The shadow is made out of a purpley blue color set on a multiply blending mode. That is because blue is the complementary color to orange, and the sunset is an orangey color, and the dingo is also orange as well, which is why that works. Here I'm using a gradient, trying to figure out the sunset color. I don't want it to be overly super intense, just a hint, so it has the horizon line glowing and it has the outline of the dingo glowing from the sunset, but everything else that's in the shadow is dark, so it's quite a contrast. And this is the final artwork. If you like this video and you want to see more drawing videos, please like and subscribe. Anyway, thanks. See you later.